Jason Tito.
My name is Evangeline V. David.
My name is Anita Mills Sawan.
I'm Claire. And I'm Rose.
Hi, I'm Claire.
And I was adopted in Modesto, California.
I was adopted from Kazakhstan,
China.
Portland, Oregon.
Anhui Province in China.
I was at a point in my life where I really wanted to be a parent. I had a good life, and I thought I could offer a really good life to a baby and a child.
We decided to adopt because that was the way that we felt the Lord leading us to become parents.
And then I was pretty hesitant to adopt. I wanted a child to look like me and talk like me, and I was really challenged that God had adopted my wife and I, and that's God's heart, is to adopt. And so I realized I was being really selfish, and He blessed Ann and I with this little chocolate brown little baby girl that we love. So we're thankful for that.
It's a win-win situation. There's a baby who needs a parent, and then there's an adult who really is longing to be a parent. I think being adopted, it just made me a more compassionate, understanding person. I was raised with my parents' natural son, and he was born physically and mentally handicapped. Being adopted just, it opens your world. You're just a more understanding person.
If I wasn't adopted, I wouldn't have my mother, my family, my funds, my education.
Some people think that if you adopt a baby that you might not feel as close to it as if you had a biological baby, which is completely not true at all.
Is she yours? Yeah, she's ours. Do you want any, of your own children? She is ours.
Often in adoption, you'll hear, oh, does she know her real mom? Or is she ever going to meet her real mom? Or,
You are my real mom.
thank you, sweetie. Okay.
I know that my adoptive parents would love me just as much whether I were their biological kid or not.
It's the same. I've talked to people who have biological children, and they have the same issues that I have with an adopted child. I think there's no difference at all.
Oh, me and my sister Kelly are both biological siblings, but we don't really think of Jason as any different from us two.
When I tell people that I'm adopted, a lot of people take pity on me, or they feel really bad for me that I don't know my real parents or my birth parents, and it's actually just a great opportunity for me to explain to them that it's a blessing to be adopted, and I get to share my story with them.
I remember this saying about the time when they asked, did I grow in your tummy? And one is a really cool thing that we used to say is, no, you didn't grow in my tummy, but you grew in my heart.
Going back to China together and seeing the orphanage we grew up in was really special. So the summer that we went back to the orphanages to see where we were adopted from, we got to see all these kids who were there, and it made me realize how lucky I am to be adopted and to have such a loving family that I have now, because when we were at the orphanage there were many kids who had physical disabilities, and it just made me realize how lucky I am to be able to be adopted and grow up in a totally different lifestyle, and just to have such a loving and caring family for me.
If she'd remained in China in a welfare institute, she would have had to live in that institution until she outgrew it at 17 or 18, when then the only option to her would have been to go to probably the military. The prospects for a normal life of getting married would be minimal because of the cultural issues.
It's a stigma in China to be adopted. And she would have had a pretty hard life, maybe a life of poverty.
I think about what my life could have been, but because of the opportunity that my adoptive parents have given me and such a great life and friends and family that I've met, that I just know that my adoption was meant to be.
It was just how God wanted to put us together as a family, and He orchestrated the whole thing and planned out the whole thing even before we knew. And we waited a lot of years for Evangeline, and every day we look at her, we're reminded why we waited so long. We had to wait for her.
If you didn't wait it, then you couldn't have me.
Oh, heartbreak.
If I weren't adopted, my life wouldn't be as great as it is now.
There were a lot of different options to adopt either through social services or through private or international.
Our experience was just really wonderful. It had its challenges. You definitely need to be ready to open your heart to becoming or continuing to be a mom and dad through that process.
I would urge the people that are adopting not to treat it like an Apple transaction or a Google transaction when they go with specific, like, I want a white child with blonde hair. You go and you say, I'm going to love a child. And so, you go international or domestic, whatever, both different challenges, but the idea of like selecting a child like a computer is probably not best for you, the way to start with your new child. So you better be in it for the long term, and when you raise your hand in front of the judge and you say, for better or for worse, this is going to be my child, you better be serious about that. So
that blood does not define family, and it's the bonds and the connections that you have within your family members.
For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and plans not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Jeremiah 29:11.
One of the things that was kind of a surprise or a funny excitement that came with being a parent is I realized that it was sort of like finally being able to be part of a club, that I always looked at other people enjoying and having fun and the excitement of being in the club of being a parent. And the day that I realized I sort of had become part of this club of parenthood, I was actually doing laundry. And there was all these cute little baby clothes, and I thought, oh, I'm part of this club. There's so much joy in being a parent, especially to you.